Bellator 270. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Smash that like button. Let's get at least 140 likes on this Bellator 270 breakdown. Much love to all my supporters. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn those post notifications on. You do not want to miss a thing here at MMA Experts, covering all things MMA. And we got a good Bellator card to talk about. Title fight in the main event for the lightweight division, which hasn't been fought for in 30 months. So it's been a long time. Let's get into it though and start the night off down at the bottom. Fabian Edwards versus Robert Fonseca. I have Edwards here. This should be a mismatch. There's definitely a level difference. Edwards is a tricky southpaw with really good kickboxing skills. He has solid range management, and he's also pretty decent with his takedown defense. Obviously, some of the better wrestlers in the game can get him down. Fonseca doesn't have that type of wrestling, though Fonseca is a tricky grappler on the floor. Definitely a top control type of fighter. Likes to be in top position, likes to work ground and pound, potentially work towards submissions. Level of competition difference. 10-year age difference. This is all Edwards' fight. I think he's going to knock Fonseca out in the first round. And you look at Fonseca, his most recent fight week ago, he fought a guy who was 1-4. Prior to that, he has a loss 2 years ago. He did fight 2 years ago a couple times, 4 years ago, and then 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. Not a ton of activity. Edwards has been fighting fairly consistently, and he's definitely improving. He's only 28. I think he's going to get a big win in this matchup against Robert Fonseca. A bit of a tune-up fight for Edwards. Odds minus 300, plus 299 at best value for Fonseca. I like the favorite, Fabian Edwards, to win here, and I do think he will get it done by knockout in the first. Should be a pretty impressive performance. Second fight of the night, Gokhan Saricam versus Rob Beech. I got Gokhan here in this heavyweight matchup, destroying Rob Beech. Beech is a decent boxer. He actually is 6-0 as a pro. Granted, not like the highest level of pro boxing experience, but he does have good boxing skills. Heavy-handed fighter. Fights well with his hooks on the inside, but subpar wrestling. And Gokhan on the opposite side, pretty decent with his takedowns and his ground and pound. His kickboxing game is solid. He's same height, 6'3" and 6'3", but he fights better from range, especially with his kicks. He should look to get Beech to the floor, work the ground and pound, and get a stoppage. I'll pick Gokhan Saricam first round submission. This should be a clear-cut mismatch in the heavyweight division. Odds, very widespread. Minus 380, plus 330. I like that minus 380 favorite. Gokhan Saricam win by KO TKO in the first round. I do expect ground and pound. Potential submission will be there too. We'll talk props on this week's best MMA bets, so make sure to tune into that. Next fight. Asaël Adjoudj versus Keir Harvie. So I really got to say, in this matchup, I have to go, again, with the strong favor. We know kind of how Bellator prelims, though, do go. Keir is a decent fighter. I think he gets the win here. It won't be super easy. Asaël's a pretty flashy kickboxer, and he also fights out of the southpaw stance, which could potentially pose some trickiness for the shorter guy in Keir. And you know what? Asaël also trains out of SBG Ireland, so he does see high-level striking looks. Standing up, he's tricky. The wrestling game of Keir is okay here. I could see him potentially getting on top of Asaël. Though Asaël's kickboxing is flashy and fast, I see Keir being a problem. He's athletic, and he puts a lot of pressure on his opponents. I see him potentially backing up Asaël against the cage, ripping combinations, potentially looking to clinch control and takedowns from there, and winning a hard-fought decision. Keir Harvie should get it done by a decision in this matchup. The odds for this one here, we'll go what's on the screen, minus 360, plus 285. It's going to range around there. So obviously strong favorite Keir Harvie in this matchup, and I do think he gets it done over Asaël. Let's keep on moving through these Bellator prelims. The next one, Nicolò Solli versus Bobby Pallett. I like Pallett here, but Solli has a decent game. He's a pretty technical kickboxer with a tricky southpaw style. He's pretty tall with his striking, and his jiu-jitsu's really solid. He has excellent Brazilian jiu-jitsu off of his back. Will throw up multiple submission attempts. Trains out of SBG, so obviously decent team there. On the opposite side, Bobby Pallett, Not an easy guy to deal with. I don't think it's going to be easy for Solli here. Also, Solli moving up from 155 to 170, though he's a tall guy, doesn't have that same muscle tone and strength of Bobby Pallett. I feel like Pallett will give him problems inside of clinch positions. He'll look towards takedowns and top control. And with his kickboxing, I mean, he puts good pressure on his opponents, and he does have a pretty solid stand-up game. I think he wins by a decision in this matchup. Could potentially get a late stoppage. I'm thinking KO, TKO, 3, or dominant decision for Bobby Pallett in this matchup. Looking at the betting odds here, let's see. Minus 259, plus 250. I like that minus 259 favorite here. I like Bobby Pallett for the win over Nicolò Solli in this matchup. Obviously, these are more high-risk bet fights on these prelims with guys with 5 fights or less, of course. Let's keep on moving up the card. Next one, Chadwick versus Arunas Andriuskevicus. I feel like Arunas really should get it done here, but Chadwick, an OG vet, is going to be tricky to deal with. With Chadwick, you get a guy in that Thai style of stance, a little bit too square for my liking, but he puts good pressure on his opponents, and he's really physically strong, decent in the clinch, and also some big hooks that he'll throw inside. On the opposite side, Arunas is a real technical striker. Leaves his hands a bit low, especially that lead one, but fights well from range. He is 6'3". He's a tall guy. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch height advantage over Chadwick here. I feel like the technical kickboxing skill set will lead him to victory. Controlling range, striking from a distance, chopping at low kicks, using his speed advantage. Potential takedown attempts by Chadwick, I think, will be defended by Arunas. I think Arunas does win by a decision in this matchup, and I do think should be fairly clear-cut. Now, the odds for this one, minus 293, plus 257. I like that minus 293 tag for Arunas. As we know with Bellator prelims, some strong favorites, as expected here. Now, the next one, Reece versus Luca Poclit. This is a fun matchup here. Reece, 8-2 record, 6-1. Luca Poclit. I like Luca. I will tell you, I think that the game of Luca on the ground could be a real difference maker. Luca's okay with this stand-up. He's not a fantastic striker, but he's decent with the kickboxing game. But on the ground, he's extraordinarily active. He'll persistently look for submissions, and he has a nasty guillotine choke you have to watch for. Reece can get sloppy at times and is down to brawl a bit too much. As he enters the pocket, man, that chin comes up high. I think he could get touched. If they clinch up and go to the floor, this is Luca's fight. I think Luca gets a submission in the second round over Reece here. So I like Luca for the W. Looking at the betting odds for this matchup, minus 177, plus 161. So some closer odds. I do like win by submission for Luca as well. I think he gets it done over Reece. Solid favorite in this matchup to get a victory, and a strong confidence one here. The next fight of the night, Ilias Bulaid versus George Sasu. Bulaid's an excellent kickboxer, but I think Sasu has the ability to pull off the upset in this matchup. You stylistically look at it, yes, Ilias Bulaid is an excellent kickboxer. He fights at the pro level. He's a K1 tournament runner-up. He's explosive on the feet. He closes distance extraordinarily well. Super fast with his strikes. Very good multi-punch and kick combinations. He mixes it up to the body and head extraordinarily well. On the opposite side, George Sasu's a tricky southpaw. Honestly, he's pretty athletic with his striking, and definitely he's no slouch standing up. But on the ground, he brings a decent grappling game. I think that's the difference maker here. Also, solid overhands, which can lead him into clinch situations and takedowns. Should look to get Ilias Bulaid to the floor. I got George's Sasu win by submission. I'm liking second round for Sasu submission here. The odds obviously have, the tremendous striker in the favorite, minus 196, plus 174. I like that plus 174 underdog, George Sasu, win by submission in this matchup in the featherweight division. I'm very excited to see it. Got to go with the more experienced guy on a roll here to beat the dangerous kickboxer, Ilias Bulaid, and give him his first loss as a professional mixed martial artist. Let's keep on moving. Now, the next prelim, and if you guys haven't yet, smash the hell out of that like button. Subscribe if you guys are new too. debuts on both sides. Stefan Costello versus Yusuf Nazokatov. I like Costello here, but do not touch the bet on this fight. Yusuf's not a bad mixed martial artist. He has a pretty decent kickboxing game. He's a good athlete. Actually has a YouTube channel that focuses on fitness. And on the opposite side, Costello, pretty skilled stand-up fighter. Honestly, his wrestling game isn't bad either. He mixes in his takedowns real well, especially, for an amateur guy. Good top pressure and control. You got two amateurs on both sides. I think Yusuf can get a bit reckless. I think he could potentially get taken down here. I like Stefan Costello win by decision, but I'm going to call this a do not touch the bet fight simply because you got debuting guys. It would be naive to bet this fight, in my opinion. I don't like the idea of betting it. I won't be touching the line. Costello is a minus 186 favorite to the plus 169 underdog. I like Costello. I like him win by decision. I don't think it's worth a touch here with two amateur fighters making their pro debuts. I think that would be really dangerous to do. Let's keep on moving up this Bellator prelim card. We got a ton of prelims on this card. The next one, Junior Morgan versus Darragh Queally. Debut for Queally. I think it will be a victorious debut. He's definitely going to be ready for this matchup against Junior Morgan. Morgan hasn't fought in 2 years. He was consistent for those 2 years, and obviously the pandemic and whatnot probably slowed down his pace of getting fights. He's a tall guy at 6'1", and it's not like Junior Morgan's a bad fighter. He's a lanky kickboxer with really good forward pressure and good hands, fast hands, solid straight punches. On the opposite side, Queally has a decent stand-up game, but a persistent chain wrestling attack. When he gets on top, he's going to be able to do damage from the top position. He's going to look towards submissions. He's going to control Junior Morgan on the ground. I don't think Morgan's takedown defense will last in this matchup. I see him getting put on the back. I like the 23-year-old. I like submission. I'm thinking first-round submission for Darragh Queally here. Obviously, he's going to be a big favorite in this matchup. He's a minus 400 favorite to the plus 348 underdog. I like that minus 400 debuting guy, but it's a debuting fighter. Not worth a bet here, but I have Darragh Queally win by submission. Let's keep on moving. Danni Neilan versus Audrey Crochet. Danni Neilan, massive favorite in this spot. I do think as a favorite, she should definitely get it done, but Audrey's not a bad fighter. She's pretty awkward with her striking, though. I mean, Audrey can be weird on the feet. The hands are out far, almost like a karate-esque style of distance, uses that lead hand rangefinder a lot. On the ground is where she shines. She has a pretty aggressive grappling game, and her jiu-jitsu off of the back is technical and solid. Queally on the opposite side, Danni on the opposite side, bouncy with her striking, pretty aggressive stand-up game. She likes to come inside and mix it up, get into a bit of a brawl. She's strong on the ground and strong with the top pressure. She's also the bigger girl of the two, and I think the size is a difference maker in this matchup. I don't see elite level potential with Danni, at least not at this point. Kind of awkward on the feet too. The chin's up a little bit too high. Don't touch the bet here, but I think Danni Neilan as the favorite should win, but the odds are atrociously widespread, and they shouldn't be. Minus 531, plus 444 for best value on both sides. Audrey's more in the fight than that. The odds should be closer. They're not going to be. It's one that I say do not touch, but Danni Neilan should win here by a decision in a competitive matchup between these two decent girls, 4-0, 7-5. We still don't know the level of Danni Neilan. Not worth the bet, but I think she wins by decision here. The next fight, Ciaran Clark, Jordan Barton. I like this matchmaking in the featherweight division. 3-0 versus 6-1-1. It's a prospect battle here. I think Clark gets it done. But another fight that the odds could be a lot closer. Clark's a pretty skilled grappler. He has heavy top pressure and control. Will look for submissions and ground and pound. I see him as a finisher. On the opposite side, Jordan Barton, solid kickboxing game, fast hands, and honestly has some excellent 1-2s, and not terrible with his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Does have some knockout power. He's a live underdog here. But it's one of those fights, man. I do think Clark's game edges him out on the scorecard. But if you're betting, you got to lean Barton, the more pro experience. I like Clark, but there's a live underdog in Jordan Barton. Now, let's look at the odds officially. Clark is a minus 112 to upwards of plus 150 for Jordan Barton. That's an underdog worth potentially a bet. Obviously, the lines have changed drastically since they were released on Tapology. I like the chances for Clark win by decision, but Barton is live here, and that's why the odds have shifted. Maybe a potential bet on the dog. We'll see how these fighters look on the scales. Could potentially change the pick here. I'm looking forward to the weigh-ins and seeing them face off for a finalized analysis. But I do like Clark's chances by a decision in this fight. Let's keep on moving up. The featured prelim. Daniel Scatizzi versus Brian Hoy. Good matchmaking. An interesting fight in the lightweight division here. Between 10-5, Daniel Scatizzi, and 16-7, Brian Hoy from the Netherlands. With these Netherlanders, you know they got good striking. I do think Hoy gets it done. His stand-up game's tricky. He's a talented kickboxer, and he fights out of the southpaw stance. Also controls range well here. On the opposite side, Daniel, decent striking, but does have a solid grappling base. Good takedowns and fast level changes, and also nasty guillotines. I feel like the range management of Hoy should be enough, and I do think he'll stop the takedowns from Daniel. Not an easy fight, but I think he'll get a stoppage too. Third round KO for Brian Hoy, fighting from range and stopping the takedown. I do believe he'll have the skill set to do that. Not going to be throwing the house at the 27-year-old prospect from the Netherlands here, but he has a good kickboxing game, and I do think he gets a knockout in the third round. Minus 219, plus 205. I like that minus 219 tag for the favorite in this fight. A good matchup. But let's jump to the main card. If you guys have not yet, smash the hell out of that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Let's talk about it. Daniel Weichel, Pedro Carvalho. This is where the fights heat up and the excitement really starts flowing because these are contenders in that featherweight division. I think Weichel gets it done here. And you look at his body of work, he's got a lot of high-level experience, over 50 professional fights. Weichel's a technical kickboxer who is pretty patient with his attack. And when he fights patient, he's going to be a hard guy to beat. Pedro Carvalho on the opposite side is a smooth striker, comfortably fights out of both stances, does have some dynamic finishing ability. Questionable chin, knocked out in his past 2 fights. Does mix in submissions really well with his striking game. Is a nasty, nasty submission skill set on the ground and good transitions into his submissions. But Weichel's got good top control. He's not a guy that's easy to tap. You look at recent fights for Weichel. He has a loss to Sanchez by a decision, a split decision to Yamamuchi, who is an excellent jiu-jitsu practitioner, and then the Pitbull split decision loss. You're looking at high-level fights. In his most recent win, that was against Keone Diggs by a split. And also he beat Saul Rogers, who's an excellent grappler. I don't think Pedro Carvalho has the skill set to compete with Weichel. I think Daniel Weichel should work towards a win by decision in this matchup. He's a strong favorite again here. Minus 186, plus 185. I like the minus 186 favorite, Daniel Weichel, and I do think he can get it done, win by decision. That's what I'm really expecting here. Could end up knocking out Carvalho, though, because the chin, it worries me. If he gets touched by a clean shot by Weichel, he could go down. Now, 10-year age difference, that's a factor, but I still think Weichel has enough gas left in the tank. I see him getting the win over Pedro here. The co-main event, James Gallagher and Patchy mix. My pick here might surprise you, but I actually am going to go with James Gallagher. We're in Dublin. That's going to be an advantage. Patchy mix on the opposite side. Excellent wrestling, lanky guy, decent stand-up game, but the wrestling is where he shines. And also, Mix fights out of the southpaw stance. Now, on the opposite side of him is James Gallagher, who kickboxing-wise is okay. He's not an excellent stand-up fighter, but he has amazing grappling. His jiu-jitsu transitions are extraordinary, very fast to get the back. Look for chokes from there. He's a submission specialist for sure, who really loves that back control position. I think Patchy Mix will have to engage him in some wrestling because the striking, I think neither guy is that extraordinary where they'll get a ton done on the feet. I feel like Gallagher is going to catch Patchy Mix in some type of odd submission. They're going to get this fight to the floor. Gallagher's going to find a way to get this choke. I do think he chokes him out here. Second round submission, James Gallagher, in what is going to be a big upset. Maybe 7 times out of 10 Mix wins, but I just have this feeling that this time out, Gallagher's skill set will get him the victory. He's going to win by submission here. Looking at the odds, Gallagher plus 325, Mix minus 340. James Gallagher is a young, improving guy at 25 years of age. Mix fought for that world title. He obviously has a good skill set, but I feel like Gallagher, win by submission. I'm feeling second round, could even be in the first. I think he's going to get the big upset here. The jiu-jitsu game is fantastic. Patchy Mix, the tricky wrestler, but I feel like Gallagher is going to find a way to lock something up, and he'll pull off a big upset. I'm going to go James Gallagher here, the underdog to beat Patchy Mix. Main event time. If you guys haven't, smash the hell out of that like button. Vacant title on the line. Maybe not the most deserving guys, but they're the guys that are getting it, and they definitely do bring the fanfare. You have Peter Queally, Patricky, Pitbull in a rematch. I like Patricky. I do think their first fight, and even in a 3-round fight, it's going to be hard for Pitbull to win. He can't go out there and sit and brawl with Queally. Queally is a dangerous striker who fights out of both stances well. He has that high guard up, mixes it up well with the punches. He cut Patricky and caused the stoppage to that fight because of that. His boxing game, this being Queally from mid-range, extremely good. And he controls the center well and puts nice pressure. You look at that first Patricky fight, he had Patricky backing up. Patricky is an explosive puncher and just a good striker overall. Nasty low kicks and does move really fast laterally. Also comes inside with massive hooks and powerful shots. He can close distance in an instant and seriously hurt his opponents. He's got some excellent knockouts in the past. Now, he's 35, but it's not like Peter Queally on the opposite side is a spring chicken in the game. He's 32, nearly 33. 2 losses in a row isn't a great look for Patricky, and I mean recent wins were over and rising. His last win in Bellator was against Ryan Scope nearly 3 years ago. Queally's on a 2-fight roll in Bellator. He beat Patricky and he beat Ryan Scope. Interesting, they both have that win over Scope. I feel like the difference maker is this. Pitbull has better wrestling. He needs to go to it here. Don't get overconfident and sit and strike with Peter Queally. I expect Pitbull to come in with a smart game plan, not sitting there and just brawl. He's going to look for takedowns, mix it up, touch Queally on the feet, but mix in the wrestling. He got Queally down a couple times in that first fight, and you look towards the end of it before that cut stoppage, he was on top. I think Pitbull wins by a decision in a wrestling game here. He's going to surprise a lot of people bringing in the wrestling. The odds for this matchup, -225 for Pitbull, Queally +221. It's interesting to see the winner of the last matchup be this big of an underdog now. The odds originally jumping out, I mean, they had Queally as a favorite over on Tapology. They still haven't updated it. I got Patricky Pitbull win by decision. He's going to avenge his loss, and he's going to capture that crown. I think now is the time. The stars have aligned for him. I don't know the future matchups. Maybe they somehow get AJ McKee and him in there. That'd be an excellent fight, and he looks to avenge his brother. But I do think he beats Peter Queally, but look to wrestle. That's what he needs to do here. Wouldn't be an amazing bet, especially at the odds that they're at now for Patricky Pitbull. Won't be one of those parlay additions, in my opinion. But definitely, I do see him getting it done with a smart tactical game plan, beating Peter Queally in the main event to capture the crown. Overall, we got a good Bellator 270 card. It's one I'm looking forward to watching. We'll be talking about the betting way more in depth on this week's Best MMA Bets, which drops on Wednesday. So make sure you guys check that out. We'll be talking about UFC and Bellator. Weigh-in recap show for Bellator, of course. We'll go deep and look at the fights for a second time and obviously observe the face-offs. See how the fighters look on the scales. I mean, that could potentially change some picks here. Smash that like button, guys. Much love to all my supporters. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Subscribe if you guys are new. Turn those post notifications on. You do not want to miss a prediction video. If you need UFC predictions, I will link them in the description. Make sure to check those out. Much love, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace, guys.